Hey church, I hope you're doing well. I'm Kelly Carlson, and today our great verse is 2 Peter 1:21. It says, "For prophecy never had its origin in the human will, but prophets, though human, spoke from God as they were carried along by the Holy Spirit." Well, here Peter is emphasizing the reliability and the authority of the prophets and the prophetic message that is in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, and for us as well. And so Peter's emphasizing this because there's false teachers and they're sharing a different narrative. They're sharing a competing narrative to the gospel. So, how many times have you guys experienced different narratives or competing narratives to the gospel? Well, I'm sure you have. I've heard a few and many, one from ranging from this is how you should use your sexuality. The Bible isn't reliable. There's no absolute truth. This is who you should vote for if you want to feel safe. This is who you should follow if you want to be the wealthiest, the fittest, the sexiest. This is what you should do to avoid suffering. There's a multitude of narratives competing for our attention, competing for us to follow them, competing against the gospel. And Peter is saying here that the gospel is the most ultimate, authoritative, reliable truth that we can live into. And these other narratives might scratch an itch in us and they might make us feel good for a little bit, but they will never satisfy the deeper hunger in us. And the gospel is the only narrative that actually brings us to our knees, brings us to the core of who we really want to be and who God's called us to be. It reaches the core of who we are. And so Peter here is inviting us to participate in the divine nature by living into this greater narrative, into God's story. And he's saying this is what we should be focusing on, not getting rich, not being the fittest, not being the sexiest, not living into all the things that we want to live into. He's saying, no, live into love. Are we growing in love? And what is the greatest narrative that we are living into? Is the gospel, is the narrative of God's love, what Jesus did on the cross for us, animating our whole life? Are all the other narratives submitted to that narrative of the gospel? So church, I hope that this encourages you that the gospel, the prophetic messages are true, they're reliable, they're authoritative, they reach the core of who we truly are, and it brings us into participation in the divine nature. And so may our goal be growing in love, in mutual affection, in goodness. May our goal be those things and not the things of this world. So I hope that you are carried along by the Holy Spirit today, that you would live into the greatest narrative that we've been invited into, which is God's story. So much love, church.